Please put your hands together and welcome Jeff Rawls.
Thanks, Lee. So I'm actionable insights and not handsome and tweetable, apparently. I am brought to you by Diet Coke. I have been on Diet Coke for many years. It does not work. So just to let you know. Now, I'm not going to put it there because it's going to spill, but I am here to share with you some insights, but we are really here to talk today about one word. That word is audience. All of us are about speaking to audiences and motivating them to do something. Now, we're all familiar with audiences because we're part of one right now, and one of my favorite things is music. So we're going to start with a little pop quiz. You're going to tell me what bands or musical artists these audiences have come to see. Anyone? AC/DC, of course, right? We got some devil horns in the back. We have some hand signals of some sort there in the front. How about this one? A little more recent vintage. He's burning up the US charts after a very successful career here. Boom! Gautier, thank you very much. And thank you for finally teaching me how to pronounce that, because many a DJ in the States does not know how to do that. Now, I'm going to diverge from Australian acts right now, because this group really belongs to the world right now. I'm trying to throw you off with the black and white photos, of course, and I'm speaking of One Direction. For those of you who are not familiar with One Direction, they look like this. They're known for their hair and their suits, and 10 years ago they were known as NSYNC, and 10 years before that they were known as New Kids on the Block, and 10 years before that they were known as the Monkees. But I digress. We are here to talk about audience. Now, the interesting thing about audience is that the way we build it and the way we leverage it has changed. And there are really two camps in marketing today, and I believe they're coming together, and it's our job to merge them into a new form of marketing, if you will. So I want to talk first about fossil fuel marketing, and then we're going to talk a little bit about renewable energy, and we're going to come back home with the notion that we are the hybrid marketing generation. So in the States, we have fallen in love with the notion of fossil fuel marketing, as many marketers have around the world, because somebody else builds the audience for you. The archetype for that right now, we have also created in the States, and it is Don Draper. For those of you who are familiar with the Mad Men television program, Don is the absolute epitome of 60s marketing cool. He is able to smoke in his office. He has lots of time to think up great ideas. He has time for some affairs in office, and he has time for 3 martini lunches. I've never had a 3 martini lunch in my career. Don's an interesting cat because he is solely responsible for creative, right? That's his sole purpose in life. It's why he can leave the office all the time, because he has these epiphanies on the road and is thinking up these great thoughts all the time. He has one thing to do. And as a creative, as a marketer of the 60s, as a fossil fuel marketer, what he does is he goes to the large networks like your ABC, right? And then he gets these audiences both in studio and at home, and he basically draws the energy from those audiences courtesy the networks, right? And he fills the brands that he represents up with their energy, and off you drive, hopefully, to this crazy amount of sales. And then when that energy runs out, those eyeballs run out, the commercial stops running, the ads stop running, you repeat and repeat and repeat. That's mass media, that's fossil fuel marketing. Not to cast aspersions on it, it's very important still in today's ecosystem. Now, as a fossil fuel marketer, Don Draper still has a great deal of romanticism about him. But I want to talk about our jobs, because our jobs are really as renewable energy marketers. At least that's what our bosses and our CEOs are thinking. Because they keep reading about social media and how we can get other people to talk about our brands and sell our stuff for us. And that's awesome, because I can cut your budget, right? And people are going to sell stuff for us, and they aren't ever going to get paid. They're just going to tell their friends, and they're going to buy it. Well, the problem that creates is that we have to eat at our desks, and our jobs become 24/7. And we have affairs, but we have affairs with technology. And we begin to look a little bit unkempt and untucked, and we stare at our smartphones an awful lot. So the problem with today's marketers is we're not just responsible for creative, we're responsible for creative, technology, and audience building, right? Scott Ross shared with you that marketing revolution, right? That we've moved from 8 tactics to well over 50 or 60 that we're responsible for, with no change in budget, little change in staffing. In fact, downward pressure on staffing. So we have become a generation that puts out solar panels in hopes of collecting addresses or likes or follows or pins, right? Because the promise is we get all these faces on some sort of slide like this, and these people are ultimately going to become an excitable audience. But the thing about AC/DC, Gautier, and even One Direction is they start like that, right? They start with the empty audience. We as brands create fans not necessarily through online activities, but through great products and services. And we have to build these audiences not by a one-time investment, but by constant investment. And we have to create them across multiple channels. And with that as a backdrop, that's how we came into our Subscribers, Fans, and Followers research series. We literally launched it 2 years ago, almost to the day, and we wanted to look at how do consumers now look at these fragmented relationships with brands, and what are the rules that they're applying if they're an email subscriber versus a Facebook fan versus a Twitter follower. That has begat 14 reports to today until we release the 15th, which is Digital Down Under. So if anyone wants to download any of those reports, there's the shorthand, exacttarget.com/SFF. If you do work in the UK, you'll see we have 3 reports there. We also did a report, our number 14 is the 2012 Channel Preference Survey. And while conducted in the States, I think because you'll see parallels in the data between the US, the UK, and Australia, there may be some insights that will be of value to you there. But I want to talk about Digital Down Under. I want to talk about what your marketplace told us. We surveyed Australians online 18 and older. And what we found as a baseline has been shared a little bit with you. 96% of those 18 and older that are online are subscribers. They have subscribed to at least one brand's email. You then have 55% and growing who are fans. They have liked at least one brand on Facebook. The plus is because that number is naturally growing as Facebook is a newer channel and people are embracing it, and the growth patterns continue to sneak up a little bit each time we survey in the States, so we can assume it'll do the same thing here. That number is bigger than our last survey in the States by about 10 points. So we see a propensity in Australia for consumers to perhaps have a little bit more friendly interaction with brands, or at least like them initially on Facebook. Twitter, 6% are followers. This is slightly less than the States, probably within the margin of error. But as Scott Roth alluded to, this is a small but mighty number because folks don't necessarily have to follow you on Twitter to have a positive or negative impact with your brand. So there's your baseline. And I'm going to show you these charts. For those who are up close, you're going to be able to see these well. For those who are far away from a screen, I know it's going to be difficult to make them out, but these are all available in the report. Each of you, provided you're registered, will be getting an email with a link to download the report today. So if you came in and just threw your name at the folks in the back of the room at the table, make sure you go back there, give them your email address, and you'll get a copy. So this shows you the stack by age of email in orange, Facebook in dark blue, Twitter in light blue. And what do we see? We see more consumption behavior in younger ages across all the channels. We see that 94% of the 18 to 24-year-old crowd are subscribers, slightly less than the total in the Australian marketplace. 68% are fans, much higher by 13 points, all right? And 11% are followers, almost double what we see in the average population. So this is something we've seen in each of the markets, US, UK, Australia, that we've seen. A, 18 to 24-year-olds have adopted these channels because they've come of age with these channels, and B, the channels are additive. They are not subtractive. People use more of everything. Now, what does that mean? Number one, email is a habit, okay? Even within the youngest group surveyed, email was used by 94% of them. We are conditioned by our inboxes to check them every day. I have an iPhone. This is a screenshot that I took a while back. I can't go to sleep at night with a red 9, people. I can't go to bed. My day does not end until the red 9 is gone. It used to be 10 years ago, my day ended when I left the office, and then it was when I shut down my laptop at home. But now, that dumb smartphone, I have to get rid of the red 9. That's very different than Facebook and Twitter, at least right now. Facebook's trying to push those updates to annoy you with those friends who are saying happy birthday or whatever else, but it lacks that intentional purposeful, multi-life aspect that I've got to check that because I don't know if that means I got a message from a friend or from work or there's going to be something that blew up at work that I've got to deal with, and if I deal with it tonight, it'll make tomorrow a much better day. That's the uncertainty of that channel, so we check it, and we check it in a very linear fashion. So don't discount email as a critical channel because of how we've been conditioned to check it. Now, here's another interesting chart showing you that notion that these things are additive. 5% of all Australians 18 and older online are subscribers, fans, and followers, meaning they're following brands in each of those channels. If you just look at subscribers and fans, that bubbles up to 48%. So email is this interesting platform underlying all of social media. And so when I see things like this, and apologize to anybody from Westfield in the room, but this is emblematic of what every brand is doing. I'm staying over at the Hilton, and I was walking by, and I hate it when I see this and there's no email icon. Because email is social media's secret weapon. If you don't believe me, go look at the coverage yesterday of Twitter announcing that they are going to be sending weekly compendium emails of the most important activity of those people you follow. Now, why would they do that? Twitter needs re-engagement. If you don't use Twitter for a while, how do they get you back using it? They need a secondary channel to come back in. Guess who one of the top senders of email is in the world? Facebook. Why? Hey, this person wants to be a friend. This event's going on. This is something else that somebody wants you to pay attention to. We need these secondary channels because to rely just on the primary channel is to lose audience over time. So don't think of email as anything on the wane because everybody, including the best of the best in social media, need email to thrive and survive. Now, this is the blog post, by the way, the best of Twitter in your inbox, literally from Monday, May 14th. So if you haven't read this, go check it out. It's a great example if you're in an organization where you have executives saying, oh, email isn't important to our audience. You can point to the fact that, indeed, Twitter's even embracing it. So we like this little piece of research, looking at what people do first thing in the morning, and we also have one I'll show you last thing at night. It's indicative of certain behaviors. And the fact that 71% of folks in Australia start their day online with email is very telling. It underscores the notion that that channel is the one that we do business in, that we have to get things done in. In our channel preference survey in the States, what we have seen over a 4-year period where we did this survey is that a lot of personal messaging has moved off of email and into text messaging and into social messaging. So you'll often see headlines where people are asked, well, are you using email as much? And they'll say, oh, no, I don't use email as much anymore. I talk with my friends on text messaging or whatever. Put that in context. They're talking about personal messaging, right? Meanwhile, over here, in the way that they manage their marketing communications, their business life, if they're hunting for a job, they still use email in spades, even more so because of the smartphone and having it on them at all times. And when it vibrates, I've got to check it. When I go to bed, I've got to check it. It's also interesting to note this split here that 74% are still checking on a computer in the morning, right? And 15%, only 15% begin with a mobile device. A little data point that didn't make it into the report, we found that 59% of the online folks we surveyed have smartphones in Australia right now. So the online audience is already a majority of smartphone users. And what that means for us is the mobile migration is here. The year of mobile is not a singular year. It's the year that you as a consumer get a mobile device, a smartphone that's enabled with the internet. It changes everything for you. And I just recently saw Mark Andreessen, the founder of Netscape, who is now a big investor in Facebook and a lot of social media. And he was asked, well, what advice would you give to folks right now? And he said, don't believe that we're anywhere but in the very early stages of smartphone adoption. You can't underestimate what it means to have, and I have my smartphone in my pocket, to literally have what we would have called a supercomputer just a couple decades ago in the pockets of 500 million people and growing. That's seismic change that we're all going to have to adjust to. And as was spoken about with Scott McCorkle and Scott Roth, it also eliminates all of your marketing silos. You are not siloed to the consumers who engage with you. They see your emails and your tweets and your text messages on a singular device. They may put you in different buckets, different channels in order to manage it, keeping their text messaging clean for perhaps more personal communications or only the most important brands. But rest assured, that device changes everything, and this migration is something we'll watch and comment on in coming years a lot. As for how they're ending their day, equally telling. The majority are checking email, but 27% are ending their day with Facebook. There is a notion of day parting that is coming into one-to-one messaging. Only 14% of the folks we surveyed in Australia said they can check Facebook at work. So what does that mean? Well, be prepared to stay up an awful lot. Because if your brand is interacting or trying to interact with an audience during the daylight hours, during the workday, you're probably missing the greatest opportunity for interaction and engagement on the Facebook channel, at least right now. The big change, of course, goes back to the prior slide, and that is the mobile migration. Because we've also just learned that Facebook announced yesterday they now have over 500 million mobile users. They haven't figured out how to monetize them, but they're there. So as people go on smoke breaks, as they check things during work hours, perhaps lunch or between meetings, Facebook's going to sneak its way into the workforce, but it's not going to be on the desktop, it's going to be on the mobile device. So this is going to be a huge challenge for us. How do we staff for this? How do we get right-minded folks to check it around the clock? How do we respond? We're sitting on some data. We're going to be releasing a new report called Retail Touchpoints Exposed. And we surveyed the fastest growing retailers in the US, and we discovered that well over half of them are seeing consumer complaints or issues on their Facebook pages answered first by their fans before they can even get in there and answer. That could actually be a good sign of health, that you've built the right type of community. And that could answer part of our quandary, right? Because we can't be up 24/7. Now, why do they subscribe to email? The top reasons they subscribe to email, which is the carrot and the stick chart if you remember nothing else, in Australia is to receive discounts and promotions and freebies. That's very akin to what we saw in the States, very akin to what we saw in the UK. However, the third answer there at 39% is to keep up to date with a company's products, services, or offerings. So there's a very strong percentage of people who want to get information from you. The diversity here and the size of these answers is very healthy and consistent with the other marketplaces. That email is a very flexible, multifaceted channel for you to use. The fact that 84% are checking at least once a day, again, we're addicted to that channel. And that out of all the channels we surveyed, email moves purchase behavior the most, right? 45% are purchasing. So that channel is healthy. We have to be careful, though, that we don't over-incentivize and perhaps miss expectation opportunities to provide additional content or valuable insights or deepen the relationship beyond the sale. Because ultimately, your brand in the inbox is a from line. So if you have not created a reputation of relevance and timeliness and meaningful content, you are a thumb swipe away from deletion now, thanks to the smartphone. Now, what do we hear in each of the marketplaces? Subscribers want exclusivity. The notion of being an email subscriber is very akin to print subscribers. They expect relevant content delivered to them that's not given to everybody on a regular basis. So look at how you are setting expectations on the front end at opt-in. How are you using your welcome program? We discovered in that retail survey that we're going to release that barely half of the folks were even using welcome email programs well. That's your moment of greatest interest. And yet I think less than 20% of the folks were sending that welcome email within 24 hours of the opt-in. So if you can establish that you're giving them exclusive content or exclusive values or exclusive discounts, they respond in the email channel. Now let's look at Facebook. Here too, we see that the number one driver to like a brand on Facebook is to receive free stuff or to receive discounts. We then again see to keep up to date with the company. So again, it mimics email, but these channels are very different. First of all, we see a little less checking behavior daily. We see a little less responsiveness on the purchase side of things. But what is core to Facebook that we discovered? That. Facebook, for a lot of folks, is a guilty pleasure. They stay in touch with friends and family. And when we ask people, why do you, actually, get onto Facebook? They never say because of the marketing, right? It's because I got to, connect with my mom, or I got to show off pictures of my baby, or I'm finding long-lost friends or loves. It's all about the relationships in our lives. It's not about the marketing. Where marketing sneaks in is when it's about their life, right? When it's fun, when it's engaging. In the States, we have a duct tape company, right? The heavy-duty tape. And for years, they've sponsored a contest for teens to create prom dresses and tuxedos out of duct tape. And those folks in a social media world now post those photos online to everybody. It's wonderful free marketing for them. But it existed prior to the web, and it exists now because it's connected to this notion of fun and expression. Facebook's about personal expression. If you can empower the individual to be more of themselves through your brand, you're winning on Facebook. If you can create communities where people connect, and Joseph will get into this in his keynote, that is where Facebook excels. Now, what about Twitter, right? It was a smaller audience. Well, the first thing about Twitter we have discovered is people who tweet daily create content at a rate of about 2 to 6 times that of everybody else on the web. So your daily Twitter users are not just benefiting you in Twitter, they go off and do things like blog and post photos and review products. So now you begin to connect the dots. And if you're a retailer and you can identify some of those daily Twitter users, you say, okay, maybe through my partnership with Bazaar Voice, I want to encourage them, when they've purchased more often, to review products because I know they're more inclined. Twitter users can create value across the whole web for you. The other interesting thing here in our follower chart is the number one reason that people follow is actually to keep up to date with information about your company. It's not for the promotions. That's number 2, number 3 in there. Twitter is not just about people wanting to follow you, it's about people wanting to be followed. So if you can feed your followers kind of first-to-know information, breaking news, it creates credibility as they curate content for the audience that follows them. There's a huge opportunity. We also see that those who are on Twitter are checking it frequently. It does have purchase impact. Again, less than email, less than Facebook, but it's there. And for such a young channel, it'll be interesting to watch that develop. Now, followers ultimately want that notion of access. How do I get behind the velvet rope? Or if I have a customer service complaint, you're my last resort, Twitter. How, brand, can you help me? That's another thing that we found, is that if you have a customer service issue show and rear its head on Facebook or Twitter, it's usually because the person has exhausted every other line of communication with your organization. So bear that in mind. Now, we're here to talk about audience, and I want to finish with another little metaphor for you. As Lee indicated, I'm a fan of English football, but I was kind of thinking about the term football, right? And if I just said football to you, what you thought of would depend largely on where you live, because if you live here, you're thinking about guys without sleeves and hulking muscles jumping for balls in the air, and I do not understand the rules of Australian football, but I want to learn, right? Australian rules football. Unique, different, but spun off of the notion of football. English rules football. Soccer, right? Very different set of rules, but they're kicking the ball, they're running around. And then you've got our gladiator style, heavy-duty helmets, getting lots of concussions, American rules football. I share these things because now think about subscribers, fans, and followers. They're all audiences, but the rules of engagement are very different for each channel. And you as a brand need to understand those as they evolve, by testing, by trying, by asking your audiences. Because those channels are not the same. And if we repeat the same mistakes that we made early in the days of email, where a lot of people treated it like direct mail and they ignored permission, we will burn and churn. We will not grow audiences, we will not engage them, we will lose them, and those channels will not be, the audiences will not be receptive. However, if we institute programs where we're building these audiences over time, we will soon see that we might be a brand where our fan audience, despite it only having 55% here in Australia connecting with brands, that could end up being your largest audience because of the nature of your brand. I was talking with somebody from a dating site recently, and that's true for them, and that makes a lot of sense, right? People meeting people on Facebook, a dating site can get a lot of value there. Whereas email might be great for retailers. Daily deal sites are built on email, right? With social as an amplification arm. Twitter's great for information. So we begin to understand how these audiences want to hear from us and split our content and then work on cross-channel strategies for engagement wherever they are and whenever they want to hear from us. So I truly believe we are the hybrid marketing generation. We're the ones who are going to have to figure out how do we merge this notion of mass marketing, where we're spending a lot of money for advertising, and get it to help us build relationships, audiences, subscribers, fans, followers, not just across email, Facebook, and Twitter, but other places you might live, LinkedIn, Pinterest, text messaging, push messaging in mobile apps themselves. But we have to leverage mass media to feed this because we will get more return on investment, and these audiences are the assets of our organization over the next decade. And competitive advantage, real ROI and competitive advantage is gained if we build those audiences. So with that, I thank you very much for your time. I will be around all day and very willing to have further conversations about the research. So thank you very much.